How we doing there, Dodger fans? A new season is upon us, and the Dodgers have started off with a nice winning road trip, and now they'll be coming home to the friendly confines of Chavez Ravine. We'll talk about the first week of the season and then look ahead to the upcoming homestand here on AFTERBUZZ TV's Dodgers Wrap 360.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Oh, yeah. The beloved Dodgers have been playing in California, just not in LA just yet. But that'll change on Tuesday after a well-deserved day off. But, you can't turn up your nose at a, winning road trip, but it did kind of end on a sour note, dropping 3 or 4 to the hated Giants.
Especially when all those games were winnable.
Right. That's the sad part. Yeah. Hey, gang, Dodger Nation, thanks for joining us. Alongside Joshua Gershon, I am Mike Conley. Special guest joining us tonight, Mollie Gershon. What's up, Mollie? That is Josh's sister, and also a lifetime Dodger fan, so she's giving us support in here. So you gotta what an exciting week of baseball. So many storylines that we can get into. I have to say that number one of the week is Ross Stripling's gem. We didn't even know who the 5th starter was last week.
Yeah.
And, that's probably on us, but, he announced his appearance with authority, or however they say it.
He did, and he looked great. I know we're gonna have to talk about the decision to yank him from that game. But for a kid who 6 weeks ago was told he might have to play because that was when Bolsinger went down. You figure you had to have Brandon McCarthy, Brett Anderson, Hyun-Jin Ryu, and Mike Bolsinger all hurt for him to play.
Yeah. I heard, I think during one of the telecasts, they had obviously Kershaw penned in there, and maybe even Kazmir too. And then they had a list of 15 pitches that could, maybe they had Maeda too. And then for the last 2 spots, they had a list of about 15 pitches, and Ross Stripling wasn't on there.
No, he wasn't until about 6 weeks ago, because Zach Lee didn't look too good.
Right.
They don't want to use Urias or De Leon yet, so that scratches them off.
Right.
So they were almost throwing darts, I think, when they decided to let him start, especially, he Tommy John surgery a couple years ago.
Right.
So, it was...
And that goes into a pretty much main reason why Roberts erred on the side of caution and pulled him.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people were upset, but I had to agree with that decision. Here's a kid who... his major league debut, coming off Tommy John surgery, hasn't pitched really all that much in the last 2 years.
Right.
They gave him the 100 pitch count. He didn't look great in that walk to Bagan. He was really wild. His ball was kind of all over the place.
Right.
It was, if
it was maybe a 7-0 game.
Yeah, I could see that, yeah.
It was a little leeway. But...
yeah, you had to, the bullpen just blew it, which unfortunately is become typical. As it happened today again.
It's so bad. And really that was kind of a thing that the number one thing really you wanted to address in the offseason.
It is. And, at first the Chapman deal would have been terrific. But, with the moral issues there, the Dodgers didn't want someone like that on their team. I respect that. I understand. It's...
But don't throw your hands up and be like, okay, we're going to go run out with the same guys, or we'll add Joe Blanton and hope everything shakes out.
Yeah, what is Joe Blanton, 40 now? How old is Joe Blanton?
For real. I actually think Blanton is going to emerge as a good piece of the bullpen.
I hope so.
And I'm totally basing that on one thing. He spent half of last season with Ray Searage over Pittsburgh, and that guy has proven to be like a pitcher whisperer.
Oh, yeah. Because
turns around.
What's his name? Their closer last year. I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Melanson? Or Jason Grilli?
When Grilli, 2 years ago. Yeah. Grilli had, 40 saves and a 1-something ERA?
Crazy.
Then he goes to the Angels and he's not very good?
Yeah. And A.J. Burnett, he turned him around. J.A. Happ, and then he ended up getting a contract with Toronto. And then, and now this year, Juan Nicasio.
Yeah.
Former Dodger.
And you still got Garrett Cole over there. Yeah, he seems to be like a bit of a pitching whisperer.
He does. So he's turned around those guys. I mean, I think Garrett Cole was lucky enough to have him as his pitching coach right off the bat once he got started. But I hear you, man. This bullpen is, I'm just so like, why not go out there? I mean, you have one lefty. Why not go target an experienced lefty guy like Tony Sipp from like the Astros was out there as a free agent. They could have won him. Clippard, I think he's a lefty, right? He was available up until like 2 months before the season started. It's just they didn't really make an effort.
No, and I really don't understand why. I've read a lot about it, and I know they have young arms, but if they're not going to bring them up, what's the point? I remember last year. Because the bullpen was so bad, I was begging, you know what, you might as well bring Urias up. Let him throw 100 miles an hour for a couple hitters.
Right.
Just to see if you can get out of innings. Yeah. Because they don't have anyone that's, except for Jansen, who you comfortable going out there and holding a lead. Yeah. Like, you're just not. You're throwing the dice every time, and you got to hope someone gets hot. Yeah. Oh, this guy's pitching good for a stretch. We'll use him.
That's really how it is. So you just have to keep throwing guys out there that haven't gained your trust yet in hopes that they do. Yeah. And there's certain, like, that kind of is how bullpens work, but when you already have a garbage bullpen from last season and then you don't really address it, other than like Joe Blanton and the Coleman sidewinder guy. Yeah. It's like, who's like never, he's like a 30-year-old that doesn't have much experience in the majors. So, I mean, that's sad. Especially where it's like it's the writing's on the wall. I mean, after the Royals won last year, I mean, you get a sick bullpen. Yeah. Especially if you have question marks in the back end of your rotation. The Giants do it. And the Giants always, and he jumbles the bullpen, and he goes with the guy like remember, 2 years ago, Romo's closing. Now Castilla's closing. Right. He goes with the guy who I trust to close the game. Yeah. And but that's what I don't get. The Royals have set the blueprint. Just get to shorten the game. Exactly. My starter just needs to. I mean, they're starting Edison Volquez, who was a former Dodger. Right. As their number one guy. Like that's their ace. Insane. Chris Young, who's 36 now. I know. Been hurt for all those years. Kept together with Scotch tape. Yeah. I mean, their de facto ace is probably Ventura, but I think he was hurt to start the season, and he didn't go that first game. But yeah, that is But on the plus side of things, they're not relying on the long ball so far this year to score runs. That is true. Which I think is such a positive. Because last year they led the league in home runs, and when they couldn't hit the long ball, they just could not score. Right. And this year already, they only have 3 homers, but they've scored, I think they're averaging, you got to kind of throw out the 15-run game. But, they're getting 5-6 runs a game off solid pitchers. Yeah. Doing it with basically manufacturing runs, which is nice to see. Yeah. I like it. I mean, they did kind of look a little bit like their old selves in Saturday's game because what were they, like 2 for 21? Yeah, with runners in score. Yeah, they were. And I don't know if a division winner can have an Achilles heel, but that was one of their Achilles heels last year. And to see it it's got me a little bit, the 2 Achilles heels, the bullpen and the situational hitting, makes me a little nervous. The situational hitting makes me so nervous, but at least in the early going, it's nice to see them score some runs without relying on the home run. And, my fears about Gonzalez were kind of put to rest. He's swinging nicely. I'm assuming now that just was preseason, him just, working through his swing. Puig looks really good. He looks slimmed down a little bit, too, actually. Puig looks fantastic. And apparently, they were saying during the telecast last year that he's on some, training regimen that started in the offseason and has just continued on. So it's important to get those young hitters in that frame of mind, especially a guy like these Cuban guys have gotten by on just raw talent for their entire, and now they come to the big leagues and they're like, oh, maybe I actually have to work, So it's good that I don't know if that was a Dave Roberts thing or what to get him on that thing, but it's whoever did though. It's look at him. He looks more comfortable at the plate. He's taking better swings at the plate, going the other way, which is huge, especially for him because he loved to try to pull the ball. I mean, he actually when he got hot 2 years ago, he was going with pitches a little bit more. Then all of a sudden he kept trying to swing for the fence every time, or he tried to pull the ball every time. Right. And that's when you struggle. And Jacques looks a lot better. Jacques Peterson looks a lot better. And I was looking at his swing, and what I noticed is, one, he doesn't have the high leg kick, as high a leg kick as he did last year. And when he plants that foot, he's hitting off the ball of his foot.
which is allowing him to repeat his swing. You know, repeatability is huge.
Right. You
know,
have to have that like timing mechanism, that trigger that is consistent every time.
It's like a golfer. You know, a golfer with the most consistent swing is going to wind up, you know, always near the top.
Yeah.
And that's with hitting. You know, with hitting, you need that repeat swing so that no matter what, you adjust here to there for pitches, but the swing itself has to be the same.
Yeah.
You can't. Not everyone can be Vladimir Guerrero and just start picking up pitches from all over the place.
He looked to me a lot better. Like the first 2 games, he still looked a little lost at the plate, Jock.
Yeah, he did.
And then like it seemed like he kind of
seemed like he
on.
got it. Yeah. In the game against the Padres, that was the one. Third game against the Padres, I had the same thought.
Yeah.
It looked like he was like, okay, got it. It looked like he was willing to trust the swing, like trust it more.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this is what I got to do. You know, he hit a home run the other day. I think he had a hit today, run scored today.
Yep.
Still striking out a little too much for my taste, but I'm hoping that, you know, he's still young. Given time, I'm hoping that part cuts down. But at the same time, if he keeps getting walks and gets, you know, he goes 1 for 4 with a walk, 1 for 3 with a walk, and then strikes out twice, that's not so bad.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because it was getting like for the first couple games, like I was like, okay, time to put Kike in center for a little bit, you know? I mean, that kid just rolls out of bed and hits. You have to find a spot for him.
He does.
You know? I mean, unfortunately, he's such a average to below average defender that it's like, oh man, you know, he's probably shipping to an AL team.
But his bat, his bat is good. But actually, Trace Thompson so far has played pretty good.
I love that Trace Thompson. I mean, I mean, I wish nobody ill will, but the biggest move for the Dodgers this week was able to put Kyle Crawford on the DL.
Yeah, I know.
You know, I mean, that is just because it's like, okay, you know, let's get Trace, you know, and now Van Slyke's a little dinged up, right?
Van Slyke got dinged up yesterday with, you know,
Trace Thompson. Boom, get him in there. And he's like, I think he's like 4 for 10 coming into today's game, and I think he had
2 hits and 2 RBIs. 2 hits and 2 RBIs today.
That was nice. Yeah, he had that big 2-out single or double. When it was that first thing. They get out to that 5 runs, right? And then it's like, then Cueto takes over. He gives up 1 run the rest of his time. You know, it's like they couldn't get to him. Sad. You know, it is kind of disturbing to see the way they are losing these games, getting out to the lead, and like especially, you know, versus the Giants. It was a pretty intense series for an April series. It was like, damn.
It was, yeah. Actually, my sister and I had some friends who went up there for the series.
Oh, killer!
And they went to the Kershaw Bumgarner game.
Nice.
You know, and we had. You know, Bumgarner's good, and we had a couple chances off him. I mean, if Kershaw doesn't give up the home runs, they had nothing going that whole game.
Yeah.
But for some reason, Bumgarner has Kershaw's number.
He does.
I don't know why that is.
Yeah. He had a bomb off him last year too, right?
He's the only person in like 3 years who's hit 2 home runs off him.
That's insane. I mean, do we even have to talk about Kershaw? It's so. You know, what's amazing is this guy, who is like one of the most focused athletes out there, has maybe even come into this season with even more focus, you know, because it is kind of like a one-headed monster. And he wants to show, hey, you know, we're still a good team here, even though we lost Greinke. And he just looks laser sharp from the get-go. You know?
He does. I mean, even though he gave up the 2 home runs, that's all he gave up. He only gave up 4 hits in the whole game.
Yeah.
You know, and 4 hits, 8 innings. I mean, he still had a great outing.
In his first start, he had, what did he give up?
One hit, yeah. One hit, one walk.
10 Ks? 9 Ks?
9 Ks.
9 Ks. So, I mean, thank God you can at least
you can rely on
just
Kershaw.
rely on him, you know? And then, how about our boy, who before Ross Stripling upstaged them, Kenta Maeda.
Oh, he looked great. Hits a home run in his debut game.
Sick. You know, there's something to be said about these Japanese players. They're doing something right over there because, you know, they're like artistic. You know, the way he moves on the mound, the way he even swings, it's like...
Well, he's got
something there.
Not a great fastball, but his other pitches are wicked.
Yeah.
His breaking ball, his curve, they're wicked. They break. You know, you're talking 3-foot breaks there on some of those pitches. He's unbelievable.
Yeah. And then he's like one of those pitches that like his 90-mile-an-hour fastball and 91-mile-an-hour fastball looks like 95.
Yeah, because it moves.
Yeah. Like in the American League, Koji Uehara is a lot like that. He can barely break a pane of glass. I mean, he's throwing like 88, but guys are like, you know. So I don't know if it's something in the water over there or something the pitching coach is teaching, but you know,
Whatever.
Maybe we can send Yimi Garcia and Pedro Baez over there for a couple months. Baez has actually looked okay so far. He might be in the circle of trust.
With all the money the Dodgers have, they should be bringing these coaches over.
Right.
Because I am not the biggest Honeycutt fan. Personally, I don't know why he gets to skate every time pitchers have a problem. Why does no one ever go after him?
Yeah.
Why? He's obviously... Because let's face it, Kershaw and Greinke last year... What is he really telling them? Nothing. They're going to go do what they do normally.
Right.
So I'm just saying, if he's such a good pitching coach, how can he not help out this bullpen? And then he doesn't get any blame. I don't understand how he gets no piece of this blame pie.
He must have compromising photos of, like, the ownership group or something,
It frustrates me to no end that he gets, like, no blame for this.
Yeah, I mean, the entire coaching staff changes over except him.
Yeah.
It's very crazy. So you wonder. I mean, to me, it'd be like, let's. I'm drawing a blank. Hello. Oh well. What were we talking about? Sorry.
Honeycutt.
Oh yeah. So it's like give Ray Searage a bunch of money. We were just talking about him. He's the pitcher whisperer. It's like, hey, do you want to make double your salary and come out and live in L.A. instead?
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I just don't understand. I really just don't get it.
Right.
That's you have all this money and you're not using it. You cut payroll, which is great. I'm glad the pay, like we talked about it. Not Greinke, a 32-year-old pitcher for 6 years.
Right.
I couldn't, if I was in charge, I couldn't make that deal. There's just no way. There's too much dead money on the back end of that deal. And actually, Greinke hasn't looked too sharp in his first 2 outings for the Diamondbacks so far.
Yeah. Interesting coming up this week in that Diamondback series. Unfortunately, both teams aren't skipping their 5th starter, even though they could do it the off day tomorrow, because it would have lined up Greinke versus Kershaw
I know, yeah.
in that series finale. And now it's not going to happen.
No.
But hopefully we see that at some point this year. Then it'd be good to see, but just for our storylines. So how about the Padres series? Let's go back to that. When things were all right in Dodger land, like outscoring them in the series 25-0.
Yeah.
And then almost...
What did they have, 11 hits total, I think, in that series? Something like that?
Insane. Well, when the horse comes out and only allows 1 hit right off the top, it's not bad. But... Yeah, incredible. And they almost set a record to start the season of scoreless frames. They were like 1 inning shy of that. Well,
Wood looked great through the first 4 innings. And then this is the only time I questioned Roberts was he struggled so bad in that 5th inning. That's when he gave up the 3 runs.
Right.
Then right away he comes out and he gives up another hit. And that's when I thought he should have been pulled. Like, okay, he's lost it.
Yeah.
He just gave up 3 runs. You leave him in there and he just gave up a hard hit. I know he only threw like 80 pitches at that point, but I think it was time to take him out of that game.
Right.
Then they leave him in, gives up another hit, and then of course bullpen comes in. I think Hatcher gave up a home run.
Yeah.
On the next batter.
Yeah. Hatcher got squeezed a little bit, but not as much as he thought. I mean, those were like some borderline pitches.
Yeah. It wasn't a bad pitch that it just got hit. I mean, sometimes it happens. Sometimes a hitter makes a play. What are you going to do?
There you go. That's why they're in the major leagues.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because it started out like it was looking like Hatcher was going to be the most trusted besides Kenley, And now, well, he came back a little bit last night, right, and pitched pretty well. So he's still probably in the circle of trust.
It worries me, though, that J.P. Howell is our only left-handed pitcher.
Yeah.
Because, like last year, I kept telling everyone that his numbers were so deceiving. Yes, his ERA was really low, but he always came in with inherited runners, always gave up 1 or 2 hits.
Right.
So that runner scored. Yeah, it's not on him because it wasn't his guy, but he's also not doing what he's supposed to do, which is get out of the situation.
Absolutely.
I think, his ERA was 1, and his whip was his was higher. And,
wow.
And a relief at one point. I think it balanced out later.
Yeah.
But at one point, his whip was actually higher than his ERA.
That's
and I'm
crazy.
like, this can't maintain. Like, sooner or later, it's going to average out.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened with Brian Wilson.
Right.
The year he looked, quote unquote, looked good, he was putting guys on base all the time. They just didn't score. Then what happened the next year? They started scoring.
Yeah. ERA is definitely a deceiving stat. You can't look at that for relievers. You definitely have to look at the inherited runners
and the
scoring.
Whip. Yeah. If a reliever comes in and his whip is above 1.5, that's the guy that you don't want to bring in a high leverage situation because that means the odds are he's going to give up a hit or a walk.
He goes in the other circle. There's the circle of trust, and then there's the circle of mop-up duty, and that's where he goes.
I still remember when Gagne went to the Red Sox and he was really bad. That Bill Simmons,
I remember that too.
Bill Simmons had that funny thing about the only times he should be on the field, which was walking to the bullpen, walking from the bullpen, bench clearing brawl, and celebrating after the game. That was the only times he should have been allowed on the field.
Man, I just like, yeah. I mean, it's sad. It's sad, but I mean, you have to take solace in the fact it was a road trip. And they came out of it 4-3. Yeah. So they're coming back for a nice homestand now. They got 3 with Arizona, right?
And then Giants again.
Giants again
on the weekend. Yeah.
That's crazy. 7 out of the 19 out of the way in the first 2 weeks.
And I don't particularly like that scheduling. Not just as a season ticket holder, because you get those doldrums in the summer. It's nice when during the. In your July and your August when it's kind of sluggish.
The dog days.
Yeah, you want to see the Giants come into town. You want to see Arizona come into town in that time. Not so much to me personally, just as a my sister and I's lifetime season ticket holders almost. It's just like when you get to the doldrums, I like to see the good teams come in. Although this year we get the Red Sox in town, and you get it'll be a little different. But normally, you like to see. Me personally, I like when it gets to the dog days to have the good teams come in.
But they also say, too, the dog days and the players are going through that, and maybe it's a lesser brand of baseball than maybe, September baseball. That's when I want to see it.
I know,
that's when where it can come down to a division win and head-to-head games.
But with the Dodgers bullpen, you kind of want to play those teams in the dog days.
It's an excellent point, my friend. That is an excellent point. Excellent point. Oh, man. So getting back to the Stripling situation, if that game's in September and it's 5-0 or 7-0 like we're saying, and the Dodgers are out of it, he probably lets him go for it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, how can you not? I know what's his name, the Heston from the Giants threw a 150 pitch.
Oh wow, that's how much
last
you
year.
went on
I think
that?
it was right, Mollie. It was 150 pitch.
Wow.
No hitter last year. I think when Lindsey come through his a few years ago, same thing. So yeah, to me, because he had already hit the 100 by that 8th inning.
Right.
Yeah, if it's a meaningful game late in the year, it's a bigger lead. I think you can try to leave him in.
Yeah.
The trouble is, I think Roberts was kind of damned if he did, damned if he didn't too, because they had a pitch limit on him. They were going to pull him no matter what.
Right.
Which I agreed with. The kid's coming back from Tommy John surgery, never pitched in the majors before. Yeah. And like I said earlier, 6 weeks ago, he didn't even know he was going to be on the team.
Right. Well, plus the fact, I mean, Dave Roberts is like, okay, who's this 5th starter? And then he goes out and throws no-hit innings. He's like, oh, I better protect him.
Yes.
We need this guy.
Oh, yes.
With our depth that we entered spring training that is now depleted and not a deep position for us.
No, not at all. Although positives, Ryu pitched 2 simulated games today. Not full simulated, but 20 pitch sessions. They said he looked good, no problem so far. So hopefully June, I think June is still his timetable, though, to come back. Yeah.
Well, Alex Wood should blow it up by June,
Wood looked good before he came to the Dodgers. He did not look bad when he was on the Braves.
Yeah, exactly. He had some promising with the Braves. When they got him in that trade, I was like, oh, okay, this guy could be something.
Me too. I'm like, hey, Alex Wood, 24 years old, had a 3.10 ERA, 3.20 ERA. I was like, hey, this is not bad. This is the lefty. Yeah. This on paper, this looked amazing. And I did go to the game. Actually, I think Mollie was there too. My sister was there too, where he threw that 89 pitch gem and that we got mad that Mattingly pulled him out of that game. He'd only thrown 89 pitches, 1 hit. He was just on, and Mattingly brought in Jansen in the 9th for really no reason.
Other than that's what his mind tells him to do. It's the 9th inning. I got to go get Conley. Hammer this down.
Yes, must bring in closer.
Must do it. That's one thing that I really like seeing this week. That dugout is just buzzing. It seems like guys are really having fun and pulling for each other. The Mattingly dugout, it was a little more, businesslike and a little less fun, I thought.
Well, I actually don't think Mattingly's a bad manager. I question a lot of his moves, but overall, I actually didn't think he was a bad manager.
Right.
Although a lot of people watching this right now are probably laughing that I said that. But especially my wife, she's heard me swear about Mattingly many times. But I think he does know the game. The thing is, he comes from that Joe Torre school. And the Joe Torre Yankee school was like that. Remember, you had to shave the beard. You couldn't have like any fun.
Yeah.
You know, kind of more business approach.
Well, I think he missed the Torre days. You know, he was kind of like, 80s and stuff.
Well, no, he was a coach for him.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
And when he came to the Dodgers, he was a coach for him. And I think since that's kind of where he learned, I feel like that's just the approach he took. And Roberts seems to be a little more. I think the players like him for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's something about his personality I think meshes better with the team because there's a lot of big personalities on the team.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it meshes a little better.
Right.
For whatever right now. We'll see what happens, you know. Yeah. Things are short-lived. We'll see what happens.
I think it helps him that he's just not an old white dude.
Yeah.
You know?
First manager. Excuse me. Huh. Yeah, first minority manager in Dodgers history.
Crazy.
Roberts.
Yeah. I did not know that. And he must have some Japanese pipeline because his mom is Japanese.
Yes.
So maybe he's got like a little scouting team over there. That's why we're getting these guys. So what's Kenta's contract looking like?
You know, gosh, I don't know off the top of my head. He signed for.
It was like a team-friendly deal.
Yeah, it was a pretty team-friendly deal.
Yeah.
So I know Kazmir was 3 years, about $39 million. Yeah, 37, 39 million. I know for Kazmir, which is honestly not a bad deal. I know he didn't pitch well today,
right?
But to me, if you get it where he pitches one good start, then maybe has a so-so start, I actually wouldn't mind. You know, he gets 12. He goes 12 and 12, 12 and 10. That's not bad.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, yeah, it's not Greinke level, but at the same time, it's what you kind of needed.
Yeah.
Out of him. You know, I don't know how much more you're going to get out of him. I mean, he tailed off. I mean, he looked good in that first start, but. Yeah. Everyone looked good in that first start. So.
He'd look great in a Royals uniform because he'd only have to pitch 6 innings.
Yeah, that's true.
Unfortunately, with this blue uniform, he's going to have to pitch 8, which is a problem.
Yeah, which is a big problem for
the Dodgers made a minor move today. They picked up a couple guys.
They did. They acquired infielder Walters, utility guy. Hasn't really played in the majors.
Yeah.
I think both from the Indians for.
Cash.
Yeah, for actually, I think it said assets acquired later, or future considerations. I think was the exact term. And they picked up an outfielder, Ramsey, who has not played in the majors at all.
Right. So those are just to bolster Albuquerque, I guess.
I'm assuming so. Well, the Dodgers don't have great outfielders right now in their minor leagues. So I think this was more of. They just need. I think they need. I mean, right now with Crawford going on the DL. I mean, yeah, I'm not a Crawford fan, so
right, yeah.
I'm not bothered by it. But with Van Slyke getting dinged up now, all of a sudden now you only have Trace Thompson pretty much and Hernandez,
right?
And you worry about Hernandez's defense a little bit.
I wonder. I think you got to go defense first up the middle. So that's why it's like kind of tough because he could play second, short, center field. And it's like you want those to be defensive positions. Yeah. So it's like, I did want to pick your brain on this. Because kudos to you, because when we were searching for a leadoff hitter last week, you were the one that said Chase Utley. I'm like, you're insane. The guy's got gray on his temples. He can't be a leadoff hitter. You have to be fast. But he is just his plate discipline and working the counts. He's terrific. So now begs the question: Howie Kendrick coming back in like the next week?
Yeah, he's supposed to be back Tuesday, actually.
So, I mean, you got to stick with Utley, don't you?
I mean, I would for now until Kendrick gets his swing back. Right. He hasn't really hit anything, I don't think, in a while. So, but right now, Utley's on fire. I mean, how can you take him out? Like, yeah, I said last week, it's whoever plays second is going to be the leadout hitter. I think that's just the way it's going to be.
Oh yeah.
Utley, Kendrick, maybe Hernandez if he plays second that day, probably lead off.
Yeah.
But what I like about Utley, you remember years ago when the Yankees moved Wade Boggs into the leadoff spot?
Yep.
And that was a move because he drags out pitch counts and he had a high on base percentage. I think that's similar to why Utley starts or is leading off.
Yep.
Of all those guys, you don't really want Puig leading off because he'd probably struggle, I think, in the leadoff spot. You definitely don't want Gonzalez leading off.
Yeah.
Seager, I think, is perfect in that number 2 spot. I think he's the perfect number 2 hitter.
And by the way, Dodger fans, you should wake up every day and just give a little bit of thanks to the universe or directly to the Dodgers organization that they did not trade Corey Seager for Hamels last year.
Oh, yeah.
He is sick. I mean, he's 21 and he looks like he's like a 10-year veteran out there. And his fielding, a 6'4" shortstop. Oh, he can't field. You see that barehand play he made today?
It was reminiscent of Cal Ripken. Cal Ripken was a big shortstop.
He was,
in his what was he, 6'3" in his
I
day?
think he was like 6'1", 6'2", and now this kid's like 6'4".
Yeah, and Cal Ripken was considered too big to play shortstop all those years.
I know. It's pretty crazy. It's going to be interesting what comes up going forward. Now, we got a homestand coming up here. We got Arizona for 3, right?
Yeah, Arizona for 3, and then the Giants.
Then the Giants come back in. So you got to just keep moving forward and think about winning series. So if we could take 2 out of 3 from Arizona, get the Giants back 2 out of 3, we got to be happy with a 4-2 week.
I completely agree with that.
Absolutely.
It's that's what you just want to win. If you can win that, you'll win 80, 90 games doing that. So
absolutely, and that's good enough to get in, especially with 2 wildcards nowadays. Hey, Josh, tell everybody your Twitter for the people that can't read it, the people that are just listening.
My Twitter is at Gersh, Gersh 13. There is another Josh Gershon on Twitter who's, I believe, some kind of like, he is a sports writer that does like basketball recruiting, like for colleges and stuff.
Like writes for Rivals or something. Wow, that's crazy.
It was just someone asked me about that. Like, do you know him? I'm like, no, same name, and he happens to do sports. Yeah,
that's crazy. I'm still not on Twitter, but we'll see if I get there one day. But you should feel free to hit up Josh. Let us know how we're doing on the show. If you have some questions, maybe we can address next week. Definitely let us know about that. But other than that...
if you're at the game Tuesday for opening day, we will be in, my sister and I will be in section 122 in the Loge.
Go say hello to the Gershons.
You can come say hello.
Well, for Joshua Gershon, I am Mike Conley. This has been Dodgers Wrap 360. Go Dodgers.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.